Have you noticed that it seems like everyone in America wants to be the victim of something? Everyone's a victim. We're a victim of the system. We're a victim of our age, whether it be a lot of age or not a lot of age. We're a victim of our society and our circumstances. We're a victim of our politics. We're all victims, it seems, in America. And this is a kind of an odd thing when we think about it in a historical context. America is a country that was founded by and built by men and women who absolutely did not consider themselves victims. If anything, what they wanted to be was left alone. They wanted to have the opportunity to pursue their own dreams and their own agendas and their own goals and to be what they wanted to be. They didn't want anyone to prop them up. They didn't want anyone certainly to hold them down. They just wanted to be left alone so that they could do what they believed they were created to do. So they could be free to accomplish what they could accomplish. This has changed in America, and now it seems like everyone is a victim. One of the books that I really enjoy reading, it's one of my favorites. I've read it a number of times. I've quoted from it. I use it often. Is a book by a man named Viktor Frankl. You may be familiar with the book. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist throughout his life, of course, but as well during World War II, a Jewish psychologist, psychiatrist, and was imprisoned in a concentration camp and concentration camps during the war. And the book, Man's Search for Meaning, is a reflection on his time in the concentration camps and some of the lessons that he learned there and understanding in the most difficult situation possible, a concentration camp where people were abused, where people were starved to death, where they were killed simply for existing, for being a nationality that was not acceptable. All of the things that were happening in the midst of that, he recognized that some did really well and some did not as well. Some really moved forward in a good way to the extent that they could, and some just gave up. They were hopeless. Some found meaning in that, and some lost all of their meaning. Victor, again, being a doctor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist in that scenario, in that situation, was also separated from his wife. They'd only been married a short time. Eventually, she would be killed at another concentration camp. He knew great hardship and he knew great sorrow, and yet reflecting on all of that, he made some amazing statements. And one of the statements that I just love is this one. And again, I wrote this down because I didn't want to get it wrong. He said this: everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given circumstances, to choose one's own way. Now, if I said this, it may not have much credence because people could discount my own experience and say, well, it's easier for you to choose to go one way than it might be for me. But Victor was looking at this kind of holistically. He was looking at people who had suffered greatly, and yet the one thing that couldn't be taken away from them, their clothes could be taken, their possessions could be taken, their ability to even sustain themselves with food, that could be taken away. Sleep and rest could be taken away. Family members could be taken away. But there was one thing that could not be taken away. It could only be given away. And that was the ability to choose. And I want to tell those who are watching today, and this is such a great reminder for me as well, because sometimes I feel victimized. We cannot always control the things that happen to us. We can take cautions and precautions and safeguards, but we can't control everything that happens to us. We can't. So many things are outside of our control. People will be unkind to us. Circumstances in our culture, our society, our economy, our political system, those things will change. There will be highs and there will be lows. But the difference between a person who continues to move forward and one who loses hope often is that the person who moves forward, the person who hangs on to hope, is one who understands they are not a victim. They can decide how they're going to respond to what's happening in their life. They can decide to be positive. They can decide to embrace the good that is around them. They can decide to see things in one light instead of looking at everything as miserable. They can make a decision. Why? Because they're not victims. And we need to get to the point in our own minds, and we need to teach our children, and we need to encourage those who are around us to stop seeing themselves, and we need to stop seeing ourselves as victims. We need to choose to move forward and choose success and choose to accomplish. We can't control everyone or everything, but we can control how we think and how we respond to what's going on around us. You're not a victim. Don't be a victim. Choose to move forward.